The other thing that came out in 1993 is a piece written by a very successful producer's own right called Steve Albini. So Nirvana's Nevermind comes out, becomes the most popular album in America. It's running on MTV constantly. And Nevermind is a very critically reviled, overproduced album compared to what Nirvana sounded like live. And so the next album that they did was with Steve Albini in Electrical Audio Studios in Chicago. And what he did was strip it all back to something more raw, which is what Bleach sounds like back when they were on Sub Pop, which was their independent label at the time. And so now that is Steve Albini's sort of claim to fame in the music industry, and what is perhaps questionably most well known for is his production of In Utero, but he's had a long and successful career. And he wrote this piece in 1993 called The Problem with Music, which he made very public and is a very scathing indictment of the music industry. And so, DJ, when we first started talking about doing this, I said, I'm curious to know, as a music producer, what your thoughts are on what Albini has to say, and then how that relates to what the thing that popped to mind is he talks about what it takes to be able to call yourself a producer. And that's also pretty scathing condemnation of, quote unquote, in his view, lesser music producers, or ones that call themselves music producers, but really aren't very good at it because they don't have any skill, or however he positions it in that piece. But I'm curious to know, working in that world, has anything changed since Albini wrote that?
Okay. The short answer is 147,011 billion things have changed since Albini wrote this, but nothing has changed since Albini wrote this.
Yep.
Let me explain. Okay. What he talks about in this article, and some of the things that he touches on are like, talking about bands, signing with labels, AR scouts, things like that. And my personal favorite about this article is part 2. And what he says is, titled "What I Hate About Recording." And I love this because he leads this off with engineers and producers who use meaningless words to make their clients think they know what's going on. Words like punchy, warm, groove, vibe, feel. And he says, especially, and I echo this completely, especially punchy and warm. He says, every time I hear those words, I want to throttle somebody. And as an engineer and someone who's worked with countless bands over the last 20 years of my life, I also, every time somebody's like, man, I just want to sound punchy, or man, can't you warm that up a little bit? Like, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. You don't know what that means. Nobody really knows what that means. It's a feeling, and it's a personal feeling. And that's why it is so irrelevant to music production entirely. It doesn't, those terms don't have any relevance to music production whatsoever.